Hello, we don't have any audio. We can't hear anything.
Is that better, Betty?
Yes, I can. I don't know if you started the meeting, but we
Just
just,
did roll call and approval of the minutes.
okay, thank you.
Bet.
I'll start over. So, Monica Capella here on behalf of Friends of Waveney Playground. I'm here with Lauren Connolly Nussbaum, and Hillary Ormond is our other co-chair. Here to give you an update on the public-private partnership. We represent obviously the private aspect of that public-private partnership. I have here a sample brick that I'd love to pass around while I'm talking, if it's okay, so everyone can see sort of an example of what our campaign will look like. That is a concrete brick. I don't know if anyone is familiar with Mead Playground, but that is a project that actually I was behind as well. And so if you are familiar with it, the bricks will look the same. They're made of concrete as well. They're meant to last a while. John has given it the thumbs up, right? And Ryan and Tiger as well. So just to give you an update, we had a soft launch at the father-daughter dance on behalf of Parks and Rec, which was a little bit more than a week and a half ago. We have already raised, we've sold several bricks, and we've already received some commitments for our welcome sign, which is where sort of the bigger ticket numbers reside. You know, just to give you an idea of what this campaign is about, just as a reminder, and for those of you who are watching at home, this is a draft visual. Obviously, this is the wish list. This is the dream. That's what we're fundraising for, is to build the dream. But this is the draft, and the end result will obviously depend on how much we raise and whether or not this equipment at time of purchase is still in the best interest of the community. Something could, you know, something could occur with maybe a particular piece of equipment that it's no longer all abilities. We want to make sure that we are serving every member of the community and being as inclusive as possible. So here is another visual. You will notice also, unlike me, there are no primary colors here. We have tried to blend in with the landscape. So the idea is for it to look as sort of natural and woodsy as possible. And there's another one. You'll also notice that, like Mead, this will have a rubber poured in place surface. Now, this is really important because it cannot be all abilities or inclusive without this surface. Not only is it essential for kids and adults who are using mobility devices, but it's also really important for families with strollers. When I first came here and Mead had the wood chips on the ground, I remember I had a stroller and like a Bjorn, and I couldn't navigate the play space at all. So not only does it serve our all abilities community, but it's also great just for families with strollers. And I will also note that the rubber surface is just as expensive as the equipment, which is another reason why we want to make sure that we fundraise as much as we can so that we can build the dream, quote unquote. This is another visual. Oh, and that's our master plan. This was drawn up by Keith Clinton, right? And so this is an overhead view of what the proposed space would look like. Not really much to add here. And this is our flyer. This so far has been distributed to all of the elementary schools via their West School has a Friday folder, and every school, including Saxon, the high school, have some version of that, which is an email blast that goes out to all the families. So that has already been submitted. We've also already submitted this flyer to one of the preschools. We have the others on deck as well. In addition to that, the Chamber of Commerce has also agreed to allow us access to their newsletter and their email blast. So basically the idea is to blanket the community with our message. And we have applied for grants as well. We do anticipate the grant season coming in May. We hope to wrap this up by the time that we hear back on our grants. So we're hoping for end of May, June 1.
May. Okay, end of May. Okay.
Yeah.
How much are you looking to raise?
Upwards of 400,000.
Okay.
Will there be a capital reserve included in that? for
Yes, there will.
How much?
I think we figured in 15%. And if it goes anything the way that Meade did, we hope to raise even more than what our goal is. And, you know, we can always discuss having funds in an account somewhere, it's sort of a rainy day fund.
Monica, interesting question then. Are you planning to leave the fundraising open until you achieve your target? Or you have? So, or you are saying, I want to fundraise for this amount of months, and then whatever we fundraise, that's where we cap it and we start building. So how are you thinking about this?
I mean, I don't think it's overly ambitious to say that, especially given the momentum that we've had in such a short period of time, I do feel like we will leave it open until, whether we meet our goal or not, we will leave it open until grant season is over. And if that means that we raise more like we did with Meade, then great. And that money at the end of the day stays in an account and we can decide to, you know, do whatever we want with it in terms of it being, it belonging to the town. that we put it in.
Let's say by the end of May, you raise 250,000,
Mhm.
okay? You want to keep that ongoing, but is that enough, Ryan, for you to kind of get launched on getting the equipment and? Or, I mean, I'd like 400 would be great, but realistically, if you can't meet that goal, do we still?
Yeah, so once the equipment's purchased, it's pretty much set in stone as far as the port and place surfacing. It's pretty final as far as the equipment goes, so any other fundraising that they would have would be for benches, tables,
Okay,
anything that's outside of the port and place surface, so. With that being said, unless you were to add another port and place surface extending on the current site, then that's one option, but it's probably unlikely, so.
so you feel confident we can really start this year in getting equipment and getting it underway?
Yes, but
I
it
obviously
definitely
with
wouldn't
the
be-
funding, yes, and there's some unknowns here, but that's the important thing.
Yeah, it would be, you know, John and I talked about it and we said, dream list, small playground, medium playground, and then a dream list, so.
Right,
It wouldn't be your medium nor your dream list, so.
Right.
It would be a quote unquote small playground.
okay, okay,
I think the idea, it's not ideal, but it's possible.
okay,
So yes, it's possible, but it's certainly not ideal. I mean, the idea is to build the dream. I don't have any reason to think that we wouldn't be able to do this,
perfect, okay.
so.
Well,
yeah.
we certainly, you know, salute and compliment your efforts. I think it's a great collaboration. Like I said, we're just trying to get across the finish line.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I understand that.
This is a difficult question, but you've had experience with this before.
Yep.
What would your ETA be for $400,000?
I mean, it's hard to say. I want to say my ETA would be June 1, which is my goal. You know, if not sooner. It really depends. These things tend to move relatively quickly. Once momentum starts, you know, there's sort of this procedure that we have, right? There's a process. So the way that it starts is first we just blanket the community with the message. And then once we do that, we start to target businesses and families individually. So we haven't gotten to the individualized aspect of it, which is why I'm still very encouraged by the momentum that we have had with just submitting to the preschools and, you know, being at the father-daughter dance. And once
The
we
campaign started. a couple-
literally like, you know, the official fundraising campaign, we've been meeting with Parks and Rec regularly. I'm sorry, with the Parks Department. I didn't mean Parks and Rec. The Parks Department regularly to discuss the equipment. We have met with members of the special needs community here within town. We've had meetings with parents. We've partnered with some organizations to make sure that the decision-making that went into selecting this equipment, other items that we're gonna have, like signs that are for kids who are maybe non-speaking. We have put a lot of time and effort into this. Unfortunately, all everyone sees is this part of it, but I can assure you that so much has gone into it before this. That being said, the actual fundraising aspect of it tends to go much quicker than the administrative functions of the bank.
Thank you. Just, Ryan, if you have $400,000, June 1st, how long until this, could be delivered to the community?
As far as the equipment goes, it's a 10-week lead time, 10 to 12-week lead time. And then as far as each phase goes, so there's an excavation phase, which is the site prep. And then after that, we would install the equipment, which is another outsourced company. And then the port in place surface would come in and they would finish up. It takes about 2 days. So you're looking at, roughly a couple of 4 months, 3 months, 4 months probably. So April.
Of 2026.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
Well, you-
Right.
So I wanted to make sure you're clear about that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
I have another question. I think you were kind to invite me to one of your meetings where I sort of that planning that you mentioned, which is great. And I think at that time, there was some discussion about possibly putting in place a fence to make the space safer. And so I was wondering what was the outcome of that discussion? Just I kind of sense there was some perimeter marked in that plan, but I cannot really see it from here.
So it is our hope, and me as a parent, I really hope that we can do that. As of right now, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but there's no reason to think that we wouldn't be able to do something like that. And again, if it's a matter of we have to fundraise a little bit more, the good news about the fence aspect of it is if we're on a timeline for the actual equipment, we can sort of extend it, we can make sure that that money is allocated and then we can extend for the fence. So does that make sense?
Right.
Because it's not going to be, as far as I can understand, it's not going to be within the port and place surface, it may be along the perimeter. So that is something that if we're bound by time, we can extend a little bit. I really feel strongly about that. We personally and I think you know this already, we are committed to the idea of a fence because of the traffic. I mean,
I think there was some concern in terms of that's, the right of way of people coming and going.
Mhm.
So it was a bit of a complex discussion. So, but again, that was not finalized at that
right,
point.
yes, it's
So-
not on there.
Yeah,
It's on the plan.
That's what it looks like, that black line.
Right.
Okay, so it's scoped and then.
Right.
Right now, it's more of a fundraising question, which I think you are saying that you're confident.
Right,
That you
And-
will reach those goals.
correct, and that is something, again, that we are not bound by in terms of the timing, like, there's no, the timing factor is really about getting the equipment ordered so that we can get that ball rolling, but the fence is something that if for whatever reason, the deadline comes and goes and we don't have enough for the fence, then we can leave the brick campaign open for a little bit longer to make sure that we incorporate that. And I think already, I do feel and you do too, I feel very strongly about that for safety issues.
Yeah.
And regarding the right of way with that, I think you're talking about, the entrance from the high school.
Yeah, I mean, I think people going from one parking lot to
Right.
another, or going to Waveney House and,
Right.
again, people were very thoughtful and looking at this from different directions. I think again, the site had not been sort of, that scope has not been complete, now it's complete. So I
Right.
think then that kind of answers that question of making sure that people can also come and go.
Right.
And enjoy the park, for other purposes that are not exclusively. the
Right.
playground.
Mhm.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to echo George's comment. Thank you very much for putting all the time and effort
Thank
into such a thoughtful plan.
Thank you very much. We
I-
really appreciate the opportunity to do this. This is
Exactly. It's a
labor
lot of
love.
time, it's a lot of effort.
It
and
is.
You're raising families, so I can understand that. I want to come back to the money. I'm a money guy. Hank, you had said that if they had $400,000 and you would be ready to go, but we have a reserve, you have 340,000.
Uh-huh.
Ryan, is that enough in your opinion? Have you looked at any of the prices of the equipment and?
We have been looking at prices of equipment.
Is
What,
340 the right number?
500 is better. No, really what it becomes is you can add more elements to it. so what you see is just a little bit of a rendering of what that is. So when that time comes where, okay, we have this much money with the town's portion of what they've raised,
So the
this
funding will
is what
drive,
we can buy.
the funding will drive the design.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
Which
that's-
is why we say that this is just a draft. The other thing I think that is important to note is keep in mind that the reserve is not necessarily required to place the order. So if there are any components to the fundraising campaign that require us to go beyond the June 1 goal deadline, we can certainly do that. The only thing that we are bound by is the equipment at this point, the equipment and the port in place service. So if we have to, you know, keep the campaign open a little bit longer in order to sort of give ourselves more of a reserve, then we can certainly do that, whether that, you know, fundraising for maybe a bigger, better fence, whatever that may be. The only thing that we are bound by with this timeline is the actual equipment purchase.
Yeah, and I don't want to harp on the subject, but I've been in enough situations where suddenly you build something and then the maintenance 3 years later, it's an operating expense and you're going back to drawing from the operating budget.
Another thing that is wonderful about the brick campaign and especially wonderful about Waveney, we're, you know, we have such a large space for this, what we're calling the legacy walkway. If something were to arise where the town is unwilling or unable to, you know, eat a cost of something that arises, I could just open up the brick campaign again. You know, families are moving here all the time. You just tell me, you know, Monica, I need this amount of money, and we could have a fixed fundraising period. Hey, you know, if you're new to town or you've missed an opportunity to get your name on the legacy walkway, this is a limited, you know, once in a lifetime opportunity for you to get in there. Maybe you've had another child. We had that with me. We had people who bought bricks after having another child because the new baby's name wasn't on a particular brick. And so that was a way that, you know, technically the campaigns were closed, but how could I say no? So we ended up accommodating those people. So there is flexibility in that regard.
Thank you.
Monica, did you tell us the price of the bricks or it was?
Yeah.
They're on the flyer, so
You have a flyer in
yeah.
your packet.
So the 4x8 brick is $350. There's a 4x8, an 8x8, and there are two 12x12s. There's a 12x12 for families and there's a 12x12 for businesses, which can include a logo.
I missed it.
And that QR code also leads to our website, which will also give you samples. And you can type in, you know, if you wanted to see what it would look like with your family's name on it, it gives you the opportunity to do a preview.
Monica, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. And I
There's no other, okay. Actually, not till usually at the, during the open forum, okay? We have to, unless it's very quick.
Yeah, I mean, it's to this. Curious if you're doing any planting around, like outside of the fence, or is there any planting involved?
I believe so, and I believe that there are funds for that as well. What that looks like at this time, we're not really sure, but we do want to make it look as Waveney-like as we possibly can. You know, like I said, we're not, I don't know if you caught the part where I said, unlike Mead, we're not using primary colors. We're using colors that blend into the landscape. So we really are trying to be sensitive to the fact that we are in a very large green space and, you know, we want it to look good.
Yeah, that looks amazing.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks. Are there any other questions? Monica, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is the King Garden Club. I think there's several representatives here. Let's talk about their proposal for Irwin Park. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing us to provide an update on Irwin Park for you all. My name is Tori Fraser. This is Susie Lavieri. Our third co-chair is Diane Dooley, and unfortunately, she was unable to be with us tonight. You do have a packet from us. But as many of you know, 2025 is the 20th anniversary of Irwin as a public park. It is also the 20th year that the New Canaan Garden Club has acted as a steward of the park. We're responsible for improvements and beautification, and it has been an honor for us. In the handout, we listed some of the many projects the Garden Club has initiated and provided funds towards. And that's the second page after the agenda. The largest, of course, was raising $500,000 for the Flexi Pay, but many smaller changes have also made a big impact. Irwin is truly a town treasure and highly utilized by the community members of all ages and their furry friends. However, invasives and weeds have overtaken many areas of the park. And in an assessment last summer, the New Canaan Garden Club decided that this issue needed to become our primary focus for the next couple of years. Many wide swaths of the park are completely unusable due to the mugwort, Japanese knotweed, vine-covered brush, and all of the other weeds and invasives that are inside the park. The New Canaan Garden Club has been working in tandem with Tiger and John to discuss the issues and develop effective strategies. The New Canaan Garden Club would like to initiate efforts to rid the park of these aggressive and damaging plants, and that takes both time and money.
So what we'd like to do is revive the Friends of Irwin Park, which was the fundraising effort that we've used in the past. And this is something that we manage at the New Canaan Garden Club. And so we're asking your approval to have QR codes in the gardens with informational signage. And this will allow us to raise money to work on the removal. We're also asking approval for the Garden Club members to sit in the park and educate during daffodil time, which will be April through May, encouraging membership and donations. We have received the money from our own funds from our Gardens in Bloom initiative in 2023. And we will be spending our own club money to redo the mushroom maze garden.
And I have a little rendering. If you all don't know where it is, it's right next to the barn.
This project will start in May and our own garden club members will be doing all the planting. The other area for approval is the meadow, which will begin, Tori now, right? So pretty soon, the meadow.
Yeah, we'd also like to, there was a meadow that was done in a triangular area that's on two sides of the triangle, and I have the survey here that you guys can pass around, and the area is highlighted.
I'll let you show close.
So there was a wildflower meadow there, but what we'd like to do, because it's such a focal point as you're walking in the park, because there really are the Flexi's on two sides of it. It's just this one. It's just the top one. Oh, yeah, sorry. So it's the area that's highlighted. We'd like to restore that meadow, but it will be this time, rather than just being a wildflower meadow, it'll really be primarily native plants. So it'll be perennials, seeds, flowering shrubs, and some trees. And that we'd like to initiate the work this spring. We'll start doing some planting. We've hired Titan, who did the work on the garden right next to the train station and some other things for the Beautification League to design it for us and help us implement it. We will be planting with her, but it's we're really being very careful this time to ensure that the plant material that we choose are perfect for that sort of small ecosystem right there. It's fairly dry, and as you all know, Irwin Park does not have irrigation. There's temporary irrigation with long hoses, but we're being really specific about it so that it is sustainable. But we feel like it's a really important to have some beautification in the park. And that area right now is completely mugwort, which is one of the most, I'd say, the strongest or worst invasives. So first we'll eradicate that and then we'll begin to plant. She has a really great design idea that we'll be very excited to share with you. It will be much more interactive is the wrong word, but the way she wants to design it is for there to be mown paths, a couple mown paths through the area, which looks small on the survey, but it's actually quite large, so that people can walk through it. So we're really excited about that, and it'll be a healthy habitat for birds and butterflies.
Great, there any questions?
I have a question. So I drive by every day, multiple times a day. Is that the reason why there has been, tree company working in the area? There's a lot of, shrubs being removed and.
So we are actually, and we're talking about Irwin Park, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we are actually really excited because thanks to John and Tiger, the tree warden is really focusing on Irwin this winter. There are a ton of dead trees in there. There are also a lot of trees that need tree work so that they're safer. In fact, the one in the mushroom maze garden right now, the central tree in that area, a lot of the limbs look terrible and are broken. But in addition to that, and this is maybe, I don't know how much they'll do this winter on that. We actually have a lot of what people would consider invasive trees or unhealthy trees. They're not native. And what happens is they're so strong and invasive that they eventually kind of drown out the native trees or the other trees that you really want to have in your park. So those will be identified and slowly culled out so that the other trees can grow more healthily, or we'll plant trees that really are the right thing for New Canaan and for that park. So I think that's what you're beginning to see.
Yeah, I just see like a lot of that, shrub, where, what happened on that side.
Yeah.
Has gone. But I think it's very fitting that Bill is here today because I feel like he has tried to educate me on native species and he says it's great that he's here with us today, and that he does a lot of work at the Nature Center. Yes, I was curious because I've been seeing a lot of work and all of a sudden, so the park is now open. And I was wondering if it was, for healthy reasons, so that the trees can be healthier, or if it was more of an aesthetic and just changing the landscape, so.
It's really, I think it's more about being healthy. And then if where there are openings, especially along Wahakme, part of the plan, at least for this, for the meadow, we're calling it quote unquote the meadow. We will be planting some more trees along Wahakme, both as a backdrop from a beautification standpoint, but also because it will provide more screening for the neighbors.
Okay,
Can you truly eradicate invasives, or does this become really a multi-year initiative?
It is a multi-year initiative, and one of the things we didn't talk about is the fact that because they're so entrenched in the park in many different places, this is a multi-year plan for us. And it's expensive to remove them, and it's not a one-shot deal. So it's not like you're gonna go in one time and they'll be gone forever. So we're aware of that. We're fundraising towards that. We will have maintenance plans, but we will try and attack certain areas at a time. If we're more successful in our fundraising, we'll move more quickly. And if it takes longer, but we want to do an area at a time.
Thank you.
So, about the raised walkway that you guys were talking about a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever, is that gonna be scrapped or is that just kind of put on hold for the time being?
So the idea is definitely not scrapped. I would say that we're in a holding pattern right now. The Board of Selectmen, I think everyone is worried about the price of that, and it is right now, there are only estimates, but they're not hard estimates because it hasn't gone out to a construction bid yet. Given all of the needs for the town and that it may need some additional town funding as well as New Canaan Garden Club fundraising, we have it on a bit of a holding pattern, so that we are focusing now on what we think is a real immediate need of eradicating the weeds. That area where the boardwalk is going to be, and I personally think it's a great idea, but it is the most overgrown area in the park. And that will be a big job in and of itself, even before the construction would begin. Does that help?
question, yep. Are there any other questions? Okay, you were asking for approval, from what I understand, for three things. Using Irwin for membership drive, replant the mushroom maze garden, and restore replant meadow and native perennial shrubs and trees. Is that the proposal?
Yes, and we'd like to have the ability both to have signage up at certain times of the year. And we would, of course, come to you all and get the appropriate approvals or preview the signage, whatever you want us to do.
Right.
And then,
That's nice.
and then, yes, we'd like to be able to sit there on some, weekends during when the daffodils are up to be able to inform people about Friends of
So for
Berlin.
the purposes of, for this, tonight's meeting, this is what we're approving, you'll come back to us when you have the signage. This, the designs for that, for this. To approve it.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. All right, so, there's a motion, would someone make a motion? Susan, thank you. There's a second, Lindsay, thank you. All those in favor? Opposed?
Gene is on.
Oh, Gene, hey,
He raised
Gene.
his hand too, so.
All right, he approves, okay. Motion carries. Well
Thank you.
done.
Thank you very
We
much.
look forward to, and thank you for what you guys are doing, and we look forward to,
We would love to
seeing
have
the
them
signage.
back.
Very good.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the list is Hillary Whitman.
Hi.
There you are. How are you?
It's Janet from the Carriage Barn. Hi.
Janet Dinger.
Hillary's at an event at the Carriage Barn tonight, so
I'm
I'm.
sorry,
Janet Dinger, fourth Henry.
Oh, Janet, I'm sorry. Janet, okay,
That's okay. Can you hear me?
yes. How you doing?
Good, thanks. How are you?
Great.
So we would like to host the third annual Waveney Arts Festival on Sunday, September the 28th. I don't know, in Waveney Park. I don't know if any of you came to it last year or if you're familiar with it. But I can run you through some details. So it's free and open to the community, and there were artist demonstrations, performances, workshops, and we also had an exhibition and sale of paintings, sculpture, jewellery, ceramics. We had food trucks, and we had 50 artists and artisans last year. It kind of doubled in size from the year before. And they exhibit in 10 by 10 tents in spaces outside the Carriage Barn, in the parking area and courtyard, and up by the Powerhouse Theatre. We're aiming to keep it the same size this year because that works well for the space, how we had it last year. But I think the main issues last year was it grew and, we had big crowds. So I think we need CERT or, police this year. So we'll apply for that. And another issue, I guess, was trash, because we had a lot of trash through the day. So Slobs volunteers will assist with that throughout the event and at end of day, and we will put that all in the Carriage Barn dumpster. Yeah, but it was a great day last year, and we would really love to do it again this year.
Are there any questions?
No, it's pretty well set out in there.
I thought it was great. I mean, like anything else, if it grows too large, sometimes that becomes a whole other set of issues. It's a good problem to have, but like you said, police, the trash, that's important. Also, obviously, a big red flag, any kind of a commercialization, i.e. unapproved food truck or something of that nature has to have Board of Selectmen approval.
Right,
Yeah.
and your thing, it says town council, it has to be the Board of Selectmen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Board of Selectmen has to approve that. So I think it's a fun event, but like everything else, sometimes people become victims of their own success.
Exactly.
And we just want to make sure that this doesn't become, it's a very manageable event for you all and for the town.
We had a few small minor issues that we could, it needs to be cleaned up that night.
Okay.
Not on Monday and Tuesday.
Yeah.
And we can't have any more painting in the parking lot.
Painting in the parking lot.
You marked out your spots,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and some of it's still there.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
You can use spray chalk.
Okay. I think we did use spray chalk. That's funny. Okay. All right, then I'll look into that.
So I think by and large, we're supportive, but we just need to make sure, like I said, this is well managed and the place is looking like, you found it.
Sure. Okay. Fantastic. Understood. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion? Is there any questions? I'm sorry.
Just a comment, it was great, I thought.
Okay,
Just great.
terrific.
Good.
I was there for a little bit myself. I thought it was phenomenal.
Oh, great. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
there any questions from the group?
No, I was just gonna move to.
All right, is there a motion? So Keith, a second, Doug, all those in favor?
Gene went yes to.
Gene said yes. Thank you, Gene. Anybody opposed? Okay, motion carries. Yeah, thank you so much for your time and let us know how we can help you with this great event.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
And going on for another great event, Pops in the Park. Doug.
Everyone. Yeah, so we are looking for approval for our fourth Pops in the Park. We're teaming up again with Norwalk Symphony, who's been a great partner for us, and they're awesome to work with. And they love it. I mean, you know, we get a huge crowd out there for them, and you know, all the everybody in the symphony always comes up afterwards and says what a great time they had, which is fun. But it's June 8th with a rain date of June 15th, on Sunday nights, which we've been doing in the past. Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be very similar to what we've done previously. You know, I think last year went, as far as I know, pretty smoothly, very smoothly. No parking issues, trash got taken care of, you know, and John's guys were great, you know, helping us out. And,
Right.
Yeah,
The sound system, you're gonna be improved upon or?
drives me insane. Yeah, first and third years, sound has been not optimal. We had it better on the second year. All over icons, so it drives me nuts. But that's the one thing we really want to improve on for this year. As far as you know, it's a little tricky with some of the you know, depending on the instruments, and you got to project out.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm all over that. So it's 1,800, which is what we agreed last year. We sold out probably a month ahead of time last year. You know, it's free. So we do Eventbrite to just try to limit the number of people out there. It could grow a little bit. We didn't, you know, when we talked last year, John said 1,800, so we didn't ask for more. We could move it up, you know, 2,000. Oh, I mean, we haven't, you know, I haven't pushed on it, but we haven't had any parking issues yet. Or trash, you know, so we could, I mean, there's plenty of room back there. So I'll leave it to you. You know, we could do it. We can leave it 18.
So there's free tickets, it's just trying to cap the attendance numbers. But what's the ticket taking like protocol? Like, do people just, I
There is.
imagine walking in?
It's really, you know, we're not out there.
It's a way to help limit the parking. Parking's our issue.
But in general.
If
you would
everybody
have a
came with
list
10
of
people in-
walking in or.
If 10 people came in a car, you know, yeah, we could go up in numbers. But unfortunately, quite often you'll have 2, 3, 4. So that's what is limited.
So is that where the 1,800 comes from?
Yeah, well, we started off with less numbers than that.
We started
And
off
we were
with
able to
like
move up
14, 12.
12 or 14, if I remember right, yeah. And we were able to go up from there, but I think we're pretty much there.
What is our parking space capacity near Waveney? I mean, if that's what we're limiting it
Yeah.
on, what's the?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
There is some-
Because some of our lots aren't even marked out. So a lot depends on whether somebody parks closer or away. Yes. Creatively.
Yeah.
Well,
Wait,
I was
you
just
include
thinking
high
between
school
the
and
high
football.
school and, yeah,
Lab.
Yeah.
right,
The people.
okay, I just thought we would know that, you know, that we would know sort of what that is, if that is what's driving how we're capping.
No, we've basically been watching it as, you know, we were able to go up to 1,800 and that works. I'm nervous to go anymore. As much as the lawn can take more people.
Right.
Right.
It's just, where do you put them? Where do you put all the people?
Well said.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions for Doug? Is there a motion to approve? Lindsay, thank you. Brittany, second, thank you. All those in favor?
I.
Aye. There it is.
Thanks, Gene.
Opposed? All right, so carried. Congratulations. It's a great event, and like you said, everything is just, as we mentioned, good luck with the sound system. Walk around, we hear the thing.
But thank you all for your support. We really appreciate it. And B and John, thank you both too.
Right, thank you. Next on the agenda is Dennis.
DJ.
DJ, okay. The proposal communicating girls softball leagues, Houston Field.
Yeah, we're looking to pay for some enhancements to the fields, and I don't know if it will.
It will come up just a minute.
Alright,
Is this the Apple Orchard Field?
no, this is Wavy, so it's it's Orchard Field and then Water Tower are
Yeah.
our two primary fields. We're looking to spend some money to focus on a couple different areas. One is fixing the fencing off the dugouts and extend that, which we'll show a picture of. To one, for the little girls, really protect, like when you throw a ball from shortstop to third base, it goes flying. So putting a fence there to make sure that that kind of blocks it and keeps the ball in play. So you'll see, these are the two fields we're focused in on. We're focused on extending the fences off the existing and repairing the existing to make sure
Right.
they're bundled down at the bottom so they're safe. Because inevitably kids climb on fences, and when it happens currently, the fences bend up at the bottom, becomes dangerous. We want to make sure that's secure and make sure that the fencing is absolutely, I forget what gauge it is, but the strongest gauge fencing, and then extend it off of for both Water Tower and Orchard, and then invest in this pitching warm-up area, which currently is just dirt with some very short fencing, which I don't know if you can tell, that's a tree. Most of the softballs end up in that tree. So we're looking to replace this area, put some fencing behind where the pitcher's mound is, turf it the whole way, and we'll paint the home plate at the different distances based on the age of the level. So there's 35-foot mound, there's a 40-foot mound, and then have a backstop, not a full backstop like a field, but a backstop to catch the balls, to stop it, go in the tree and fence it in. So I don't know if you want to go to the next because it can blow it up. Yeah, John did a great job, just giving some aerials. So this is the existing fence off the front of the dugout. So we're just extending it out to just pass into the outfield. Again, so you have spectators, it protects spectators, but it also stops them, if you guys know softball, when the ball goes past the fence, it's automatically out of play, gives a double play. Doing that for both Orchard, doing that both for same thing on Water Tower. And then the last thing is this pitching area, is just fixing that pitching area. So we'll have, I think, we're 6-foot fencing to kind of box it in, but not cover it. So you still have access, but then a taller fence here to protect that tree from over pitches, and then just turf it. Those doesn't take much maintenance.
Right.
That's it.
And this is fundraising you guys can do on your own?
We already have the money.
You already have the money.
Yeah.
What's the total cost to say?
Yeah, we have a quote right now. It's just under $41,000. And not that you would care, but we have $250,000 in the bank. So
Okay.
we've been
We're trying to
waiting.
figure out
We
how
were
to-
hoping to figure out, could we afford to
He
turf
needs
the
a
field, but
playground.
yeah, we were like, the previous board was hoping to be able to eventually turf the field, but after knowing what the boys just spent on turfing
Okay.
that field, we're not gonna wait for millions of dollars in investment.
Is
Right.
that seen by Parks Department?
Yes, it's working with,
It's all-
Yeah,
Ryan and John.
they contacted us first.
yeah, we walked the property.
Right.
To
Sorry.
be clear, that isn't just the baseball boys that are paying for that, because that is the, like,
The athletic club too.
the athletic. So how does the athletic club support you guys as softball? I mean, I would think with like Title IX, I'm just curious about like,
So we reached out this year and said, okay, we've been paying for a couple years now and haven't seen much. So there's a new board, we're starting to kind of say, hey, what about us type of thing.
right,
So
I don't think that seems appropriate that we are, especially from a Title IX perspective, like, I know that that's a 501c3, but like, that, I thought that was,
doesn't matter how you get the money, the Title IX still gonna be in effect.
yeah, I mean,
I thought that was for all sports.
so we're.
Okay,
You're right, and and we lost a field because of that. We had the pool field was our
Uh-huh.
third, and especially for the youngest for practicing games. So now we're condensed to 2 fields. So we're trying to address that, and we've had discussions with them of potentially making at least a practice area out there that we can utilize, but this is all on us. This is like, we know, and we've talked to Danielle with the high school team. The fencing helps everyone. It protects everyone because again, if it's not bound to the bottom,
Yeah.
it curls up, and this pitching area will be used by everyone, so which is great.
And this is still part of when they came and talked about the baseball field, they talked about sort of like the sports area that had been in effect, right? They talked about sort of like
The zone.
the zone,
Yes,
thank you.
where fields can be rented.
So this would be part of the zone too, right?
The Orchard Field is part of the zone.
Yeah, okay,
And 99%.
The enterprise zone, right?
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, so it's extending the fences, turfing the pitching area and making it better. The only thing not on here is you don't see, there's like these canvas tops to the dugout. We're just replacing them once we find it to make it rainproof. They're not rainproof right now. They're just sunblockers.
They were built to be sun blockers, not to keep
Yeah,
off.
so that's it.
We don't want them playing in the rain, but that's another subject.
It happens.
It happens.
It does. So,
Well,
they-
thank you for fundraising for this.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
get the help.
What's that?
I hope you start getting help.
Yeah, I just was
Yeah, we
curious,
look-
cause that,
This,
I mean,
this rook out of, and this is TMI, but this rookie season that Lauren's actually involved with. We had like 50, 60 girls. It's the biggest ever. Like there's just swell of girls coming through. I have 3 girls in the league myself. It's a great sport for the girls in town.
Sure. Are there any other questions for DJ?
Yeah, I go, it's Dennis Mark, but I go by DJ. Everyone knows me as DJ.
Okay, are there any other questions for DJ?
Was confirming, sort of, John has approved, the practice
John.
area is already approved, the location and.
That's,
everything.
it's an existing practice area. They're making it a lot better. What they want to do will make it a lot better and be able to be used most in almost any weather.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a nice addition. The fences don't bother us. We're still waiting on the one on the Orchard Field. Or not the Orchard Field, on the Water Tower Field. Because the gas line goes through there. And we need to actually map it out and have the local representative of the gas line to make sure we can put the fence there. So that might be an issue.
The high school girls use this field still, right?
Yes, JV uses that field.
George, does the commission get involved in athletic club issues? Or is that just something completely out of our bailiwick?
We get involved in something like this, in terms of like, if there's any capital improvements or something like that, but in terms of actual, who uses the field when, no.
That's the assignment of fields is actually the Fields Committee, which is the Director of Parks and Recreation, the Park Superintendent, and the Athletic Director. So Jay Egan, Ryan, and myself.
Any further questions for DJ? Is there a motion to approve these improvements to the softball field? Tim, thank you. Second, all those in favor? If you're outstanding, and Gene, all right, Gene, yeah. DJ, thank you for these, this is, you know, a wonderful initiative, and I think it'll make it a lot better.
All right, great. Well, thank you all.
So next, Mr. Flynn, our annual update on the Nature Center, which is great.
Second. All right, that's good enough. Hi, everybody. My name is Bill Flynn. I'm the executive director of the New Canaan Nature Center. I know there's some new faces, so nice to meet some of you who I haven't seen before. I do this every year and give a general update because the Nature Center is a town park. And if you didn't know that, then that's your first bit of learning here tonight. And so thanks for having me. Generally, I give how we're doing, any major shakeups on the property. I don't have any approvals today, but I am going to be talking about with the memo that you have. So don't worry about catching all my details. It's really detailed in that. We have a 3-phase campus plan. We're just in the beginnings of trying to implement And I presented that to Board of Selectmen, Board of Finance and Town Council in the fall, just to kind of queue it up so that it's fresh with everybody, and I'll give you kind of the same rundown, so. Very broad strokes, stop me at any time. And I will say this, just at the beginning, as Doug and I talk about this, and we're gonna make it happen this year, is just set a date for the commission to come and do a walking tour, because this, all of this makes so much more sense if we can just walk around and ask questions, so we're gonna make that happen, and then, but at the same time, next year, everyone will be on the same page. Without boring you too much, I always go over very quickly of why, or how the New Canaan Nature Center Association Incorporated, which is what I'm the executive director of, how it came to be. So Susan Dwight Bliss, who owned her house was the First Presbyterian Church. She donated that to the church, and she donated the other 40 acres that is the nature center to the town for purposes of a arboretum, bird sanctuary, nature center, passive recreation related purposes, or a museum site. That's exactly what it says. And they accepted that in 1959 and 1960. The New Canaan Nature Center Association was formed with the town's cooperation, and then they made our nonprofit the designated agent to fulfill the deed. So that's why we exist. We are very close partners with town. We have been since 1960, and that's what our nonprofit is, and we work very closely with town. So if you're ever curious about, you know, the deed gives the restrictions on the property. And there's two letters, one in 1960, one in 1970, that was updated, and that outlines the responsibilities. And so that's where items that come up in the public works budget, that's where this all comes from, because that's what was agreed from the beginning. And I can bore you with a lot more details on that, but I always start there because a lot of people, I repeat that, and people just don't know the history. So it's really important. Just for me, I've been the executive director for almost 8 years. I've been there for 15 years. My family lives on site. There's the caretaker's cottage is what the original building was, but we have an 8-year-old son. He goes to South, and we are very invested in the success of the Nature Center, given that my wife works there. She's the director of the preschool. I'm the executive director, and we're raising our son there. So we very much want the Nature Center to succeed. Preschool and summer camp make up the bulk of our programming that's daily there. Mostly New Canaan residents utilize those two programs. And then we have a huge variety of environmental education. We had over 5,000 students come to us, and we visit them. And that's a mixture of New Canaan. We get as many of the school trips to come to us as possible. That's really funding issues that we work out with PTCs, and they do fund a lot of programs with us, so that's great. That's me making syrup, which is my favorite thing I used to do. I don't get to do that anymore because I'm stuck in an office and doing exciting things like this, but I used to love making syrup. And it's syrup season now, so come on by. Just from a revenue side, you can see preschool at that 44%. That's our biggest program. That's really what drives us the most. Summer camp and environmental education, that makes up the bulk of our programming, which is about 70% of our income. The other 30% is going to be our annual appeal and fundraisers and community events. So about 70-30 from our programming versus donations, grants, and fundraisers. Expenses pretty much mirror the same thing, except the administration, that's a lot of the staff are my salary, maintenance, CFO, that sort of thing. But the good news is, if you saw, our revenue is bigger than our expenses, and we've done that every year. I've been the executive director, and I'm very happy about that. Once we start building new buildings and things, it's going to change for those years. But we've managed the funds really well, and we've been able to put a lot of that money back into the property every year. Towards the end, we kind of get a sense of where we're going to be, and we just start doing our checklist of improvements that we want to do. Just a few of these projects that were worked. It's always a balance of what we do on our dime, and then what town does. And again, who pays for what is really outlined in those letters of agreement. Some of the things the town completed was we had a ramp in the back end of the greenhouse that was taken down. It was not ADA compliant, and it was not in good shape, so really a safety issue. So town took that down, which is good, and it opens up to some of our gardens, memorial gardens, that we'll be able to beef up and just make look a lot nicer with that ramp gone. The Rock House you see there, that was actually built to house Susan Dwight Bliss's rock collection way back. And we are honoring that tradition. We have Skip Hobbs, if you know, a resident geologist. He's gone through the whole collection. We've cleaned it. We're gonna relabel it and get it back in there and honor that building as it was originally. So we're keeping on the traditions. We try to keep what the buildings were for that purpose and keep that spirit alive. Yeah, oil tank removal, that's boring, so. A few things that are pending that are important for this summer. Pond dredge is a big one. The first, if you're walking out past like our where goats and chickens and sugar shack are, that first pond you get to, that's Kiwanis Pond. That one's the one scheduled to be dredged, and that's already been approved. That was approved in last year's budget. And Keith Simpson, they are the ones that got that bid. And they have put their wetland application in, and I think they're next month, but I think so.
Close is the last thing I heard.
Yeah, so once that, if that gets approved, then we can move on. They're shooting for August, which works for our programming time right in between summer camp and preschool, and also works from, they think that's a good time to do it. There's a few interesting parts of that. One is where to dump the silt. We think we have a good spot up by the closer to Owen Ridge, where we had goat fencing in this last couple of years. And the reason we're good with dumping the silt there and spreading it out is it was an undesirable field anyway, and now we get a chance, if the silt works there, we can start it fresh and seed it exactly how we want and have a really nice, fresh native field, which we're excited about. The other part of that there that I'm really hopeful for was they thought they could dig out Phragmites from where the pond is. They thought they could reach over and be able to dig that out. I didn't know if that was gonna fly with wetlands, but that's Keith Simpson and they're talking with wetlands about it. We'd love to see the Phragmites dug out because the only other option is glyphosate, which we don't want to use on property. So we're trying to figure out different ways. So that we're excited about the pond dredge getting done. And that is a town, that's a town project. And the Audubon House, I don't know if you come down the driveway to the bottom, there's a middle sort of island, and there's this little shabby building that isn't in, I think I showed you pictures last year where the roof caved in. That's the one, yeah, that's the one. That I think is gonna come down in spring break. There's some environmental hazards, so you know, especially with they have to wear like their full suits to remediate the environmental part. We want to do that when there's not full preschool in session, so they're picking a school break, which is great. A few other things just from town, we took down 3 beech trees. I mean, that's just the beech disease going throughout, you know, throughout the country, and we lost 2. The one was really done, and then the 2 were going, and so they took down all 3, the tree warden did, so thanks.
Are you able to cut the wood up and use that?
We do so I think I presented this last year, we actually sell it at Walter Stewart's, just as a, why not? We have plenty of down trees, we split it up and put it into bags. And so we do it for that, and we need it for the sugar shack, so we fuel all the syruping with the wood from property. And we have a splitter and we do all that, but yeah.
When the trees come down,
Yeah.
is there a replacement tree put in? Like, is that part of the tree warden or?
So typically if we have that conversation when it comes down. So like when the last time a big maple came down right around our circle, they replaced the maple there. With this, with beech trees, you know, if you remove a beech, replacing it with a beech doesn't make a lot of sense, but we haven't replaced it next. Yeah, we haven't replaced it yet. Depends on where it is too.
I don't even know, is that sort of protocol with the tree warden?
Not completely.
Okay,
It'd be nice to plant everything over again, but, you know, sometimes if the tree's off in the edge of the woods, it might not make sense.
And a couple of these, and these were right in that front lawn section, and one was, we kind of had the trees lining, and then one of the beeches was just sort of off to the side, so it sort of was odd tree anyway. And the other ones are right next to the path and the rock wall, and so we tend not to. I mean, if you plant next to your paths, you know, you're always at risk of people, but yeah.
What kind of beech trees were they?
They're
Beech?
what?
Copper beech?
One was,
And the
and
American.
then one was American. The one we're really concerned about is the Weeping Beach, which I've read a lot of conflicting things that the beach disease actually affects it the same way. I don't know what you found, but we have this really iconic Weeping Beach that has all these initials carved in it from over 80 years, and the kids go into the canopy. It's really special, and if we
There's
can
a
say it, we
big
want to.
BF on there, that's what I see.
Right. Bill Flynn.
No, I just asked because I have a little Copper Beach nursery going.
There, talk to your local arborist. There's a lot of people
I have a
trying to.
hotline into.
Yeah, right, there you go. There's a lot of, I haven't heard the end all be all of like, if you do this, you will save it. I've seen the treatments that sort of make it healthier to maybe it fights it off better. So like boosting its immune system, if you will, but I haven't heard the cure yet. So tell me if you find it, please.
Yeah, well, we got our fingers crossed.
Yeah. These are a few projects. I was listening to the garden club, and we are tackling invasive sort of as from an educational standpoint. One thing I really think is helping our property management is that we got with Larry Wiener Associates 7 years ago. We made a master plan. Larry Wiener Associates is there every year doing projects and continuing with it. So we have the same company who designed it. They're there every year, they're monitoring it, and I think that continuity just keeps us, we just do a little bit more every year. So we always introduce different methods. There was a cardboard planting, where they designed it out, and basically you cut the holes where you want those plants, and so it suppresses all the weeds around it, and then it biodegrades. So there was a garden we planted like that. The goat invasive removal, jury's still out of how effective that is. I think it's a fun thing, and I think it absolutely brings people around and is a great educational tool. Our goats passed away this year, and we have room for new ones, and the current thought is that we get a team that can go do this, and there's a lot of groups in town who'd utilize it, and we own the fencing. And so, it's expensive to rent them. It's like 10 grand to rent them for a summer or more. And so if we have them and we have the fencing, we could maybe try this out, and it wouldn't be 10 grand to the garden club or town, and that's a very intriguing program we're definitely thinking about. The picture on the far right is the border between us and the First Presbyterian parking lot. The before picture, of course, it's the most powerful. I mean, it's just this brambled mess because no one knew where the property was. That was the hard thing. So there was this 20-foot barrier buffer that no one took care of forever. And that's all gone. We established the property line with the land swap from last year. If you remember, they needed to gain some for the columbarium. So we gained it over on this side, and we cleaned it all up. We solarized it, which is plastic sheeting, which kills everything underneath. Then you come in and plant a cover crop, and then from there, if you want to add more shrubs and things. So that's another method we're using on the property. So far, we've got the big trees in, and looks a heck of a lot better. It's going to come hopefully with a fence. This would be another meeting that would come and get approval for this, but the church and us really think a fence would really do well and have a nice gate in from their parking lot. And invite people in that way, but that's the next phase. They weren't ready to commit to that yet, so we said we'll wait another year. But we were really excited about that. Those are the big projects around. Did I miss any that I was showing you that I'm forgetting?
No, just the gardens, that over by that property line where the old gardens were.
Oh, that gets into this is a picture of that was the ramp on the left, and that's it gone. So big difference. And that was all cover crop too. And then those lead to two memorial gardens. So that'll be a nice area. These are interior improvements that we do. So, we make improvements to the buildings and the grounds. I would assume that the grounds are more exciting for this group, but we do make improvements to the classrooms and things that fit our needs. So the 3-phase plan, and that's what your memo is about. We did a master plan for our organization. We figured out what do we need, and don't worry about reading all this. It's all in the memo you have. So we want to shore up our preschool and summer camp. So we have a classroom renovation project, and that's within the education building. That's taking a big open space and just dividing it up into more classrooms. So that's not particularly complicated. There is a bathroom issue, a code issue that we asked town to address. So in this budget cycle, it is in the public works budget to put in more bathrooms to suffice building code. And we'll wait and see whether that goes through. And then if it does, we will coordinate and do our classroom renovation.
Bill,
Yeah, go ahead.
I should not ask this, but I'm a nature center parents.
You sure are.
Remind me of the education building. which one it is.
Yeah, that's the biggest one, with the lake room in the back and the forest and the tree room down below.
Oh,
That's the education building.
that's,
Yeah, that's,
I pick up my kid.
yeah, right, exactly.
Okay.
So that's the main floor of that, like, it's a really open concept and, well, it's names, you go by the names of the classrooms.
Yes.
The next two involve our greenhouse. Our greenhouse is the big 1982 one that was just such a great idea at the time and never worked as it should. And we're moving on from that building, it being a functional greenhouse, and we want to make it into something that's usable for our organization. So phase two, oh, this is a picture of just the interior. So it's a big open space that we're turning into, dividing up into more classrooms. The one thing I'll say on preschool, and I always pitch this when I talk to town, preschool is our biggest moneymaker. If we earn more money with preschool, we put more money back into the plant. So supporting preschool is always, in my, that's my pitch to town is, if you support our preschool, then we make more money and then we put more money back in, so. Prefab greenhouse, we want to move the greenhouse up. This is what you're talking about with the other gardens. So this one. This is just a random picture. I just found it online just to put up what the size and scope of a smaller greenhouse. You don't need nearly as big a greenhouse that we currently have to do the growing program we want, which is all a native seed propagation program that we want to harvest native seeds locally. We want to educate about it. We want to send all the native seed plants out into the community every year. And you don't need a 4-season greenhouse for that, because natives, you actually don't even need a greenhouse. But if you have one, you can accelerate the propagation timing. So if you don't have a greenhouse, you're going to be ready in like June to give out your plants, and no one plants their gardens then. They all plant in April. If you have a greenhouse to start it, you just move the process along. That'll be a nice home for the education part. So this used to be our herb garden, our community gardens. That's where the lead was found a few years ago, if you remember that. I was in here talking about that, I'm sure. They had to rip up all the gardens, and so we're trying to repurpose the area. We want to put the smaller greenhouse right in here where the old herb garden is, right next to the herb cottage, which is there were 4 original greenhouses, all in this area. The last one came down maybe like 5 years ago. That was the last of the 4 antique ones. And so now it's a open space, and we want to sort of reestablish it and move our horticulture center up there. Since our current greenhouse, we want to do something else with. So that's the idea, to keep our horticulture program going. And then in the larger greenhouse, which is that building, if you hadn't, you would need the visual. And this, we want to make some sort of multi-use space. So something big enough where if we have a larger event, we can host it in there. Lectures we can host in there. Preschool and summer camp, it's really useful to have a big open space when really bad weather or whatever. And we're outside almost all the time. It has to be really bad for our kids to come in, but having a big open space just solves every other need that we had in our master plan. So what this will exactly look like, we don't know yet, but this will be a capital campaign. This will be a big project. The first two, the smaller greenhouse and the education building, we're not asking town to participate in that. We have our own funds. We want to do that as soon as possible. This one, we're asking town to participate in the funding of it. And we need to do a capital campaign for it anyway. So I'll probably be updating that over the next, hopefully not 5 years, but probably the next couple of years, I'll just be giving updates on that, because that's going to take a while. And that's kind of where we are today. Again, I think all this makes so much more sense when you're on the property, so I really hope whatever date we can find in the spring, when it's a little nicer and things are blooming, and come out for a walk and I can show you all this and it'll just click.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Are there any other questions for me? Happy to answer anything, yeah.
So the first thing is, I know I've said it throughout the years, but I think that it's very special for me to be here this year as a commissioner and be able to thank you for everything that you and your team does for our community every day. Frankly, the nature center is not just a special place because of the grounds, but it's the communities, the team, and every program that you run. And for our family has been transformative in every respect. So it really just for me defines, one of the reasons why New Canaan is so special. I only, my oldest kid couldn't attend. He was older when we moved. But that's one thing I wish I knew and would have moved sooner. I think that the plan to just add on to the preschool is fantastic. It's a wonderful program. It's fantastically run by Anna. And I think it has been amazing for my kids. And I know for a fact being there that there's a lot of interest. And I think there's a big waiting list every year. So the question is, do you think that with the current renovation plan that you will be able to serve all of those families? Would that be enough? Or would you be looking into potentially having a second phase to this? Because again, the interest is there, the program is fantastic. I think you run into the space, the classroom space constraints.
So we went through this and the question is, do we want to get bigger? And the answer with what we came to is no. And that was, we're one of the biggest programs by far. I mean, we have 100+ kids there every day. And the larger you get, we don't necessarily think the better the program gets. We have a very large program already, and we just don't think that adding, because that was one of the conversations for this, build another preschool, build a whole new preschool building and fill it with classrooms. Could we fill that a lot of years? Yeah, but we just didn't feel like our program was going to get any better or more special by making it bigger. So that was an intentional decision.
So this education building renovation is exactly what you need right now. And that's what
And it adds a classroom, so it does make it a little bit more flexible. We were trying to get the Audubon House fixed up over the last 3 years. That was one of our areas that we saw potential for another classroom. It was really far gone in bad shape, so we moved on from it, but yeah, this was our next plan, to add a classroom. And we have another classroom that's in the visitor center at the end, that if we move them over with this, we can get all the classrooms over on one side and open that up to a public room again. But if we ever need to, it's already licensed and we can always use that as a second additional classroom to what we have now. So it does have some flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a vague memory that silt from a pond dredge used in Waveney Park with frustrating results. John, am I hallucinating or did this actually happen?
You're not hallucinating.
Yeah. Especially there's
What's then known as the cornfield, both Mead and Millport.
Yeah.
Lots right there.
So we talked with Larry Weiner Associates already about this, and there's certainly ways that that's one of the thoughts is, do you pilot, do you cook it, do you do that for a year at a season and then spread it? So that's one of the plans. And we wouldn't, I mean, the pond dredge right now is in approval phase, like the Keith Simpson, the wetlands approval, and then as soon as the approvals are ready, we'll get together with town and talk about all this stuff. Because otherwise, we talked about that, is do we have to solarize that field for a year, which is the same thing as the piling up, and I don't have all the answers for this, but something we definitely thought of, so we're on the same page.
And we have to be cognizant of our neighbor, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
the
church
church,
right
yeah.
there, and the parking lot's right there, so, right.
A big stinking pile of silt right there.
Exactly.
It'll be great. But yeah, I mean, we'll come up with a good plan, but yeah, we don't want to plant the Phragmites field there. Yeah.
Any questions, other questions for Bill? Thank you, Bill, for the.
Yeah, we'll see you in the spring.
Great job.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're gonna maybe use Doug and.
Yeah, that's what we-
Maybe like a Saturday afternoon,
We
something like
chatted
that.
about this.
Okay,
Yeah, we think.
I would love to do that. That'd be great.
And you'll hear me blab even more, which is,
Yeah,
I get,
excellent.
I get very chatty. Thanks.
Thank you for your time tonight. Yeah, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, next, David's gonna give a little update on the Family Board Committee.
Thank you. Good evening. The committee structure that I laid out, we've started to fill in committee chairpersons, co-chairs. And of the 6 committees, 5 have been filled with chairs and co-chairs. And I'm happy to let you know that Melanie Hearn has agreed to join me in the administrative committee. On that in a minute. I'm very grateful for her participation. Russ Kimes, I've met with everyone. Russ Kimes will be handling safety and security. Mel and I will be working administration. Ben England and Larry Pitt will be handling operations. Tom Stadler, who you all know, and Pam Wood will be, Pat Wood will be handling food and beverages. Scott Cluett has agreed to handle entertainment, and I am going to be meeting with the future chairs of the marketing and communications. I don't want to announce that until it's been formalized and agreed. I don't want to get ahead of that, but it's pretty well done. We've been exchanging emails. We just haven't gone through that special coffee meeting at Greenology that seals the deal. That's my conference room. So that's where I meet everybody and we talk over the opportunities and the issues. So that's doing great. And what we're trying to do also is we're trying to develop incumbents so that in the future we have a transition into new leadership that goes smoothly. In terms of Tom Stadler's work, has been fantastic, as you'd expect. He's gotten 14 food trucks confirmed for the 4th now, 14 confirmed, expect 9 and maybe 5 show up, but hopefully the numbers are better. And 4 are pending, so there could be a total of 18 trucks there. The good news is that our proposal for a pad rental fee for each truck for $200 has been going over well. And that's terrific. So that adds a little revenue to the coffers to offset expense. One interesting outcome of the conversation Melanie and I had was Melanie suggested, and maybe you could speak on this very quickly, but one of the aspects of the Family Fourth would be to provide awareness of sensory safety for infants and for special needs and for any other situations to help enjoy and participate in the Family Fourth event and be more inclusive and allow them to participate and enjoy it in a safe manner. I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
I think it summarized it really well. So
Okay.
thank you.
That's great, and that would be something that Melanie will be developing, should be working with private private organizations, and something that she has participated on in the past. The dates are set: July 4th, Friday, July 4th, rain date, Saturday, July 5th, alternative rain date, Saturday, July 12th. So that's it. And then lastly, we're working with Deanna to get the fireworks vendor locked in for 2026. Because it's going to be a big year and you got to think ahead. So we're going to be able to report on where we are with that in the next meeting. Aside from that, any questions? Excellent.
Right, yeah, David, thank you. David has really taken on this project and has done an incredible job. Very short amount of time. So, and we'll be having another 4th of July committee meeting on Wednesday, March 12th at 6 p.m. an hour before our regular scheduled meeting that time. So, okay, thank you, David. John.
Okay, so as everybody knows, winter's here, probably the most snow we've had or the most aggravating snow we've had for the last 3 years, but the guys are doing a great job getting everything done. I'm surprised Ryan hasn't fallen asleep while sitting here tonight, but that's you probably can imagine Coppo Field isn't going very well right now. With that, everything's going fine except the weather is doing a number on it. The ground's frozen. They can't get much work done. They're still plugging along, but the April 1st opening is probably not gonna happen at this rate. So other than that, it's budget season. So tomorrow night we go in front of the Board of Finance. We've gone through the Board of Selectmen. And I'd just like to briefly go through our budget requests, so. Overall, we're looking at a 2.97% increase. Primarily driven by two things. In the Parks Department, the union contract is finally settled, so that affects actually 2 years worth of budget. So that's a big driver right there. And then we also put in money in Lapham's budget for, there's been a grant for extending the hours, basically. And we put in extra money because that grant will run out for the second half of next year. So those are the two main drivers. Parks Department, if 5.24% increase, the budget would be $2,385,041. I have to ask the Board of Finance for a little bit extra money with the contract. It affected two other line items that did make it into the budget, but it's very small. And the other thing we added into the Parks Department budget is 17,500, which is the cost for renting porta potties out in the athletic fields and things like that. We pulled that out of a different set of line items in the town's budget and put it there.
What kind of porta potties?
It-
Just the regular?
Just the regular ones, the cost we are in the process, we are in the process of going out to bid for a new company for.
Not the nice ones.
I mean, there's nice like trailer one, I mean, that have like the sinks in them and stuff like that.
That's right. The cost to rent them is huge.
They just get so disgusting and smelly, the other ones, at least those flush.
Well, and that's one of the reasons why we're going out to bid for, we're probably gonna try to have a second cleaning during the week.
That'd be nice, we have such a nice town with porta potties, it just.
Yeah, we agree.
We agree with you. The only part is I don't want more bathrooms. They are nothing but aggravation to us. Yeah, but that's a separate subject.
So, just quickly thinking about that, like a lot of those porta potties are sort of within that zone where we do have people renting fields and things like that. Is part, when we talk to them about renting it, do they cover some of those costs for you?
They usually bring in more porta potties
Oh,
for
okay.
special events, you know,
Right,
you
not
need a
special
lot.
event. I'm
Well,
talking
when we
about,
rent the fields, it's usually for a big event. It's not like we rent it for a group that comes every Wednesday.
you don't with like Eclipse and some of those teams?
No, most of them are not during the season of rental in the summertime.
Okay.
So, yeah, so it's usually a lacrosse tournament, like that kind of thing. And then the few that we have here and there aren't near
Or
enough
not enough.
to cover the crowd. So under the rec administration budget, the main thing we put in there is, we put in money for Zach to go to the National Recreation and Park Association Conference. So, very quickly going through, we have a lot of different line items. There's not much change, like park buildings, 0.52% increase. Yeah. Nothing. Lapham does a great job. And one thing we noticed is if you include Lapham in the pool, we do about 90,500 touches of people per se. So that really means about, if every resident in town went to our programs, we'd see them 5 times.
Yeah.
Now, people like Keith goes 100 times, and leave some people to go home, but no, it's a lot of people between, 1,600 kids going to before and after school. It's a lot of people going through, so to speak. So, and Lapham does a great job with that. So the other thing that we're basically in our second year is the recreation fund, which is self-sustaining, which we use for all our before and after school programs, summer camps, soccer, flag football, softball, tennis, paddle, pickleball, and special events. That is working well. We, at the end of the year, which is in the end of June, we give back 100,000 to the operating budget, which helps cover some of the salaries from such as B, myself, Zach, Steve Dayton, etc.
Not nearly enough.
So, but it is a nice offset coming back. So we basically run our programs as cost effective as we can.
Yep.
but make a little bit of money.
Right.
Yeah, and then every now and then, if something happens and we have a bad program, say we make money when there's 10 kids and there's 9, we might still run the program, lose a little bit.
Right.
So that's about it for operating. I'll be glad to answer.
Any questions for John?
Yeah, I have a question. It's not on operating. Someone told me they attended a finance committee meeting and that Parks Department was had a proposal about Kiwanis Park Pond to put in kind of concrete it.
Okay.
Okay, and what kind of confounded me is that I hadn't heard about it. Now, I know I missed, I think, one meeting, but
We're gonna go through capital now. One thing that happens with our budgets is that even though we give an ask to the Board of Selectmen, it's the Board of Selectmen's budget. Really, it's really the first selectman that goes then is approved by the board. So we don't regularly talk about our budgets until after it goes through the Board of Selectmen. So that's in capital.
yeah, so let me understand that, because
Okay.
I guess I would have thought if you're gonna propose something like that, that it would have been vetted in some fashion with the members of this commission. And, you know, without talking about the merits of it at all.
Yep.
Just frankly, just so guys like me don't get embarrassed by someone saying, well, you're on Parks and Rec, didn't you know about that? And what do you think about that? And I'm going, no, I never heard of it.
I agree, and very, very simply, we did put in for Kiwanis. I think it would be a great place to have a splash pad. Young kids,
So that's separate from the pond, or would you divert part of the pond?
I personally, I would probably get rid of the pond. It's now in public. With that said, what we were looking for is for a company to come in and design it. So we were looking for 50,000 to do the design of a splash pad. Another item in the budget, we were looking to replace the basketball court. That's been in our budget moving forward. The Board of Selectmen took both those items and took them out and said, we want to investigate this further before we go any further there. So,
I'll talk further to that.
Yes, I mean, it's just a protocol thing.
Sure.
Nothing about the merits of it.
yeah,
Right. Understand.
yeah. And I think that, and I think for capital projects like that next year, because of this type of thing coming up, I think we might be run a little differently. I think we might be vetting it before we go. Right, so for your point completely. So, but while we're talking capital, very quickly, you know, our equipment probably doesn't interest you. It's well, it might interest you, but it's to maintain, you know, all the parks and all the other properties that we maintain. But going into capital infrastructure, I'll be glad to answer anything, but we're looking to replace irrigation systems. Right now, we have a contract to replace the system at Mead Park.
The whole system or just the heads?
The heads and the piping and the controls.
Wow.
Not the wells. The wells are still operating fine. So, we have a contract, it's been approved by the selectmen. They should have been putting in pipe. If it was like the last 2 winters, they would have been installing it all winter long. But they haven't done anything yet. Next, in July, if we get approved for the money, we will also do Saks and Connor Field, same thing, controls, piping and sprinklers. So, and then we'll go from there. We do need to put in some more money, for bleacher repairs. We found some issues with Dunning bleachers. We're not at the point where we need to replace them, but we have some concerns. We put in $100,000. We're hoping it doesn't have to stay at that amount, but we haven't received the firm proposal yet. We want to replace the field or outdoor AEDs that are around town. The ones that are around now, were a grant from Norwalk Hospital, and they've reached the end of their life. And so with that, we'd like to replace them. And then it wouldn't be part of the grant anymore, but they're done. But we'd still have them out on the fields and around the parks. That'd be replacing 50. And then the main thing of talking about is the pickleball courts at Waveney. We had our liaison meeting with which I think is what you're talking about, Keith, with the Board of Finance Town Council members. And we're proposing 200,000 for 4 courts with lights up here at Waveney over at the paddle courts. And the comments from them were, why don't you build 6?
Really?
So right this minute, I don't know where that's gonna go. We'll find out
But
more.
did they
tomorrow.
approve the 200?
The subcommittees don't approve anything. They're just listening to hear what we're gonna talk about and go from there. So, well, tomorrow night will be interesting to see how it's received. We won't know until they finalize their budget. And then the only thing that's different in there, the only last thing is a park pavilion. So where we put up the tent for summer camp over by the outdoor bathrooms, where we're proposing to put a pavilion out there, we'll use it for summer camp, but otherwise people can use it for picnics and that type of stuff, so. Okay. You know where the skating rink is now? If you walked out
Just
towards the
beyond that.
field past the bathrooms,
Yes, yes, yes.
we put the tent right in there
Okay.
for
yeah.
summer camps.
I remember.
We move summer camps out of Waveney unless we have inclement weather.
Yes, thank you. No.
When you say pavilion, you mean like a concrete floor with a 365-day covering?
Just the roof, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
Makes sense.
Great idea.
John, we have talked like multiple times about the pickleball courts and the tennis courts, but at need. But a lot of that has been sort of Tiger's responsibility in terms of like running water and the parking and all of that. Is that all? Because I know they sort of are like these touch points. Is that part of his
We
request?
still have that in there. We have
Okay.
money available. That parking lot is hopefully gonna happen this year.
Okay,
It's one thing after another, the survey, that type of stuff, because we wanna replace the tennis shed. Redo, the parking lot needs to be redone for ADA, so that falls under Tiger. But then just improving that whole area. We have money for that right now,
okay.
yeah.
Any further questions for John? Thank you very much. You know, as the budget process can be arduous and tedious, and appreciate you doing that. Going to my report, very, very briefly, and this dovetails on what John was talking about and Keith was asking. The Board of Selectmen has asked of this group to form a subcommittee to develop a master plan for Kiwanis Park. The master plan would obviously list the potential needs and approximate costs. And obviously, we probably wouldn't go through this year's budget cycle, we've missed that, but looking at this for future years. So what I'm looking in this group, is there somebody here willing to chair this group?
I guess that would be.
All right, Chief, thank you.
But if there's anybody else who'd rather do it.
If you want to co-chair, that's fine. All right. Yeah, but,
Okay, Tim.
Tim, okay, great. Tim, so you guys will be co-chairs, and what we'll do is, I want to talk to, John, I want to talk to Deanna a little bit as well. We will, get a subcommittee, if there's other people, they don't necessarily need to be on this commission who would like to participate in this, that's fine as well. But you guys can, as David did with 4th of July, if you want to vet that group and who you want or whatever, you know, that would be really at your discretion.
I can think of one person who will want to.
There's a couple people that names have come up already.
Yeah, exactly.
I know
So-
one.
But that's not the one I'm thinking.
Right. So Keith and Tim, thank you very much. More to come on that, okay? And again, I'll be in touch with Deanna and let her know. This will be the group. We'll be chairing the group and they'll form the commission and we'll go from there. Okay, so then our next meeting is Wednesday, March 12th. Appreciate everybody. I know it was a long night, but I appreciate everyone's patience and appreciate everybody's hard work too. So it's been a great agenda. Before we adjourn, is there any comments from the public?
I do.
Betty?
Betty Wozniak. Hi, at the last meeting, I had mentioned that some of the board members or the commissioners dropped off. And then you had mentioned to me that at this meeting, there would be the election for the new chair and secretary. Did that take place before the audio was working?
No, Deanna did not make it this evening. She usually, the first selectman, usually orchestrates that election. We'll hope to have her here in the March meeting.
Okay, thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Are there any other comments? Is there a motion to adjourn? Thank you. Second, all right. All those in favor? Yeah. Thanks, guys. Bye. All right. Keith,